That's the song you think of when you think of Aquarius?
That's what's in my head right now.
I always think of the song that was featured in Forrest Gump, where it's like, Age of Aquarius.
Oh, yeah.
Aquarius. That song?
Yeah. No, I get it. Okay. It's not my, in this moment, it's not my go-to. Yeah. Well, welcome to Two Mystic Mamas.
Welcome to episode F.
Yeah.
That's how we're doing our episodes, by the alphabet,
Right.
which limits us to...
No, like double A, double B, double C.
I know, but that's
Wait
not...
till we get to triple G.
Nah.
What's triple the triple X?
Oh, you know what also makes me think of? Pure romance. Remember Pure Romance?
I just recently found a heart-shaped... it's like one of those little massagers with the metal disc in the where you put it in boiling water and it gets soft, and then you can use it on your skin with like oil or whatever.
Sure we still have that.
I literally just found it within the last week.
I'm pretty sure that is still in Jeff's bedside table, and I'm pretty sure we used it once where you broke the disc.
Right.
And it was soft, and then it...
Right. I mean, the idea of it for like a heating pad or something, when you have your period, is nice.
Yeah.
Like, I've never actually...
Or good for a kid. It's like, it's a multifunctional romance toy where it could also be a family-friendly use.
I have this boo-boo. Wow, what a minute. Why does this say Pure Romance on it?
Well, because you makes your body feel lovey-dovey once you put it on, and it heals it.
We had a friend that did the Pure Romance thing.
We did, yeah.
We had Pure Romance parties. That was
they were fun.
They really were. There are definitely some photos that exist from those that shall never meet the internet.
Never say never, Chris. God.
I mean, I do believe they were on the internet at one point. So they're there somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Oh, the parties of our 20s where we used to have that same person that also was the Pure Romance consultant in our early 20s. We were roommates at one point, and we had a piercing tattoo party at our apartment.
What did you get pierced or tattooed?
Well, I don't know if I want this on the podcast. But let's just say I attempted to get something in my nether regions that the tattoo artist, the piercer, had never pierced before. It's not a piercing I would go into lightly. And I basically, the brains of 20-year-olds. I had said to my friends, which are some of my best friends now, which I had said, if I don't have to pay for it, I'll do it. That is the terrible idea. So they, of course, came up with the money, and there I was, attempting to get my hood pierced.
I had no clue the podcast was going to go here today, but I am so glad it did.
It was an unsuccessful piercing.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Now, there was no damage whatsoever done to said hood, but he got the piercing rod. I don't know what that's called. It's not a knife, but he got that through. But then when he went to follow it through with the jewelry, when he pulled the piercing piece out, he couldn't find the other side. And I was at that point in pain enough where the alcohol was no longer masking it, and I was like, we're done, and tears, and it had gotten awkwardly weird in the room because it was all girls, but I let everyone stay to observe this happening. Also, weird decision in your 20s, like, here, you just want to look at my vagina for 25 minutes, and so that did not end well. And I made them play, God, so many details from this story, Man Eater by Nelly Furtado on full blast. That was what calmed my nerves.
Man Eater.
I mean, I just got like such a bad app.
Great.
Yeah.
Jewelry is the hard part, though. I had my tongue pierced for like 17, 18 years, something like that. And I remember that it did not hurt when they pierced it, but when he put the jewelry through, it was terrible.
Yeah. I never had the need to get that done again.
I do have a friend that got it done because it is supposedly, it's supposed to make you more sensitive.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have done it. I would have kept it if it was done, but then, the whole thing went to shambles and, which kind of leads into like what we're going to talk about today in an interesting way, because when you think about past experiences or funny stories that also somewhat are trauma induced based on poor decision making skills throughout our lives, because that was such an interesting time frame for me too. And the life lessons that I learned at that time in my life were instrumental, but there was a lot of shit that, I would like to forget that was very traumatic, that,
Right.
needing to let go of and move forward and not how to hold myself back because I made bad decisions, right? I think that we tend to make bad decisions and then we harp on those bad decisions because sometimes they have long-term repercussions. Then you're like, well, had I not made that decision, God, you're so stupid. You have to reposition those statements to be positive affirmations and also purge.
Right. Because when they become stories in your head of who you are and you identify as something or lacking something, then it changes the trajectory of your life when you allow it to overtake everything.
Totally.
And that can be whether it's our own doing and decisions that we've made and, berating ourselves for them, but it also can be things that people instill in us at a young age.
Yes.
That, excuse me, we are a certain way.
That is so true. And I think that, just finding ways of learning from what experience gives us or gifts us and letting go of what it doesn't. And taking something, especially from childhood, because that can be so ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
And then how to take the positive out of whatever that is, and then learning, letting go, and flipping it so you don't have a negative connotation or some limiting belief. I think that's the other thing, all of this, our podcast is centered a lot around spirituality and our journeys into spirituality and what that looks like. And belief has a lot to do with it. Different beliefs and changing beliefs and morphing beliefs and limiting beliefs and openness beliefs and all of these, because beliefs are thoughts that become what we in turn say is truth.
Right. Well, when we limit our beliefs, we limit our capacity for expansion. So when we think that we have to fit a certain amount of criteria, we don't allow nature to kind of take its course and allow other things to happen,
right?
Which we might not know are good for us or bad for us, or in between, like without the dark there is no light. We know that, right? So we're always going to wax and wane through those different phases. But if we're constantly limiting ourselves, either out of fear,
well, it's always out of fear,
right? Out of fear or out of paralysis, right? Because and again, probably leads back to fear.
Yeah, right. Fear. False evidence appearing real. All right, so topic of the day, what we are coming together to talk about is Aquarius. I will preface this by saying that my astrological knowledge is limited, but growing. I think that I've always found astrology to be fascinating. And I know that my, sun, rising,
sun, moon, and rising.
Sun, moon, and rising, yes. My sun is, most people know their sun because that's their main astrological or their main zodiac sign, right? So I've always known that I'm a cusp, and that we did talk about this a little bit on one of the other podcasts too, about getting your natal chart. So basically, when you were born, what time and place in the world dictates where the stars and the planets were aligned, which then has a ton of different symbolism that is specific to you individually, which is fascinating. And I do believe that there's a lot of truth behind astrology.
I would love to meet someone that was born in the same location as me at the same time. I feel like that would be a super cool social experiment.
That would be,
To see what they are like.
yeah.
And how it affects your personality, right? Because then
Because are you the same person?
you're not the same person because you're genetically,
I know,
a different material.
right.
And there can be people with the same Enneagram number, the same personality type that have all different planetary signs. And
Well, the Enneagram too is interesting because you can be a healthy or an unhealthy, they have healthy traits and then unhealthy traits. And I have met some people that are the same Enneagram as me, but more on the unhealthy side. I mean, just my opinion that they were on the unhealthy side. But yeah, the Enneagram is another one that I find fascinating.
Right. So the natal chart, I think it would be cool to find someone. I wonder if we can do that.
Yeah.
We'll along our podcast.
Oh, that would be, put it out there for our listener. I'll be like, this is where we were born at what time.
I don't know that I want to give that kind of information out on the internet.
I feel like for the most part, that's probably already out there on the internet.
Right.
But I don't feel like that's not crazy difficult to find. I mean, if people wanted to really research us, they could probably figure that out. But I don't know how else you would find that.
I don't either, other than putting it out there.
Put it out in the universe. But yeah, we'll link the natal charts and where you can find them. It's a free resource, so it's nobody has to pay for anything. You can just go out, and you do have to have that information.
And the closer you can get with your time, exact date of birth, the more accurate.
I'm 1313 or 113. I was born at 1:13 in the afternoon, which naturally 1313 is crazy angel numbers, and that has a lot of significance.
A lot of significance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the more I'm finding out since I've been on this spiritual journey, we were just talking about this, the more things are way aligned than I had anticipated. So for our listeners that are just tuning in, we are in February of 2024. I up and quit my job in November of 2023 without having another job secured. And wow, it's interesting to see how one decision that I made personally for myself affects other people. But I had an innate sense that I had to make that commitment. I had to do that. Listening to my intuition and just really honing in on some of the things that we center on this podcast as far as spirituality goes, had a lot to do with it. And just trusting the universe, God, divine source energy, whatever your name is for it is, had a lot to do with that too. And now moving into 2024 as being a new year, but also Aquarius and having Pluto, which has been in Capricorn for
15 years.
15 years. If we were to take where we were 15 years ago, which we're going to talk about here in our individual experiences, and where we are moving now, has a lot to do with us launching a podcast,
right?
Reinventing ourselves, starting fresh, starting new. And I think it would be interesting to know where Pluto was prior to it moving into Capricorn, because in my relationship with Jeffrey has definitely been this whole time that Pluto had been in Capricorn, which will be fascinating to see how it blossoms and develops now that Pluto's moving into Aquarius.
Right. And then in 20 years, I also wonder where it's moving into next, because in 20 years, we're going to be moving into a completely different phase of our life.
Yeah. The end phase.
Right. Where technically, our children are going to be grown, and what is that going to be like?
I know. But it's interesting that these phases last for so long and what that means.
Yeah, specifically with Pluto.
Yeah.
Not all planets take that long to move.
Is Pluto the farthest?
It is. Yeah.
I was going to say, damn it. I wish I were done in an astrology class. This would be helpful now. So I think it's just interesting if you're listening to this podcast and you're a feeling kind of person or an energy kind of person, what this will look like. And we'll share with you guys naturally the resources that we have come into that have been helping us guide us onto this information, because Krystyn and I are not experts, but we have enough knowledge and excitement around it that we do find it to be of value.
I think the more that I learn about it, the more I learn about myself. So it's a great tool to utilize in your own process of transformation and expansion.
And that's what this podcast is all about.
Leveling the fuck up.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
So Capricorn has a lot of like helping put systems in place, right? And teaching us how to be strong, teaching us how to budget our energy and our resources and our time, because we realize what doesn't fucking work for us in those moments. But Capricorn can also be like a very toxic masculine energy of, you're supposed to do this, belittling and talking down, and
a lot of power, being selfish and taking the power and the money and the resources and not using it holistically for the good of people.
Right. Systems that just don't work and don't help, both on a global scale and on an individual scale within our lives.
Totally.
It was this big buildup of go, go, go.
No self-care.
No self-care at all.
No rest.
But that's what we learned from it, right? We learned that we need to take care of.
Totally.
We need to nourish ourselves,
right?
All of these different ways.
Right.
And I know for me, the past couple of months, I would say since October, have been pretty pivotal in me changing habits.
Yeah.
In order to benefit me.
Yes.
I have forever been
expand on that.
A very flexible person, which I still am a very flexible person, but to the benefit of everyone else, not actually myself.
Yeah.
So this has been a great just kind of movement in the last, I guess it's been like 5 months now. That's so crazy to think it's been that fast.
Yeah. So much change.
I mean, it's crazy how everything opens up all at once.
Uncluttered. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, last week we had this happen.
Yeah.
All in the matter of a day.
Yes.
Where we had this car that had been Charlie's that was sitting there that had like a blown head gasket, and we never got around to doing anything with it. And it, there was
other had moss growing on it.
Yeah,
it was just hanging out for a minute.
Right. And I had a talk to Charlie about it. I was like, this has to go.
Yeah.
Right. I was so irritated over it. I was just ready for it to go. And so I had said, that's it. The end of the year, that's like the cutoff, because he said he had stuff in it or whatever. I don't know. And then the end of the year started to approach, and there was no time in the schedule to take care of it. And so last week it all came to a head, and it got towed away and it's gone. And like within an hour of that, like the first meeting of the day that Charlie had, he had found out that his company had been acquired. And while that is, scary, it's also like huge possibilities for expansion.
Yes. Go on with the startup.
It's a startup that was acquired by another large startup.
Yeah.
A larger startup.
Yeah.
So when you create space physically,
oh, totally,
all of these other things happen. Yeah. I was just literally watching it happen in front of our face.
Yeah.
That thing was towed away, and I was like recording every second of it.
Yes. And that just made me think of too, like after I quit, one of the first activities that just not even overwhelmed me in a bad sense, but that I was like, I have the time. I am going through all of this shit. And I went like room by room by room in our house. And I was like, nope, gotta go. Nope, gotta go. Nope, gotta go. Nope, gotta go. And I mean, in that also, like, it's so true. If you physically create space for the universe to work its magic, it does it in incredible ways that you can't even think of, or you weren't thinking of.
Right.
Or, and so that manifestation coming back to like removing clutter and purging physically also translates into things happening like that. And this is a good segue into like, what can we do to emotionally, spiritually purge? Like, what exercises can we do that allow us to heal this life, past lives, from shit that is still holding us back, that is limiting our expansion into our greatest good for what we are here to do and offer this world, you know?
For me, the best advice that I can give to anybody listening that's feeling this
Yeah.
in their core is to start small. With anything, start small, something that's manageable, because when you think about all of it, right, and especially anybody that has childhood trauma, I mean, we all have childhood trauma on some level, but that has a very large trauma in their lives
Yeah.
that they're trying to heal from, is start small.
Yeah.
So don't create more overwhelm in your life.
Yes.
What's one thing that you can control
Yeah.
today that's going to help propel you forward a little bit? And then tomorrow, do that same thing.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and that's where I've been since October, is each day doing that.
Yep.
Expanding a little bit more.
And I think that is such sound advice. Just start small, be consistent, show up, and then build from that, because it's those small, incremental, consistent changes that will create monumental effects and down the line.
You have to show up for you.
Yeah.
You have to show up for you. Who else matters?
Right.
Right? Like, yes, we have our friends, we have our family, we have our community. All of those people matter. But if we cannot live with ourselves
Totally.
and take care of ourselves.
Right.
And I know we hear this all the time. You hear it in everything. You have to put on your mask first. You have to take care of yourself first. You have to fill your cup up first. That seems so big and daunting to some people.
Yeah. Especially if they've never done it before.
Right. So this is like,
and especially as mothers too, we get wrapped up. Like, if there are mothers out here listening and you guys haven't taken time for yourself and everything is centered around raising your kids or serving others, you have to identify, you have to look inside and say, oh my God, that's me.
what do I need?
What do I need?
What do I need? Literally just walk outside of your door and look at the sky and take 3 deep breaths in, and that's your space for the day.
Right.
It's something.
Yeah.
And you have dedicated and blocked off that time for you, and it doesn't have to be anything more. It can just be that simple and that transformative at the same time.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because what's going to happen throughout this year as Pluto has moved, into Aquarius.
Yes.
Is it's going to also move back into Capricorn.
A couple of times they're going to retrograde. Yeah.
Right. And then it's not going to be fully until November 19th or 20th that we fully move into Pluto and Aquarius for the next 20 years.
Correct.
So what that means is all of that bullshit that has been coming up for the past couple of months, it's like, hey, this is where you need, right? This is where you need expansion. This is where you deserve to level up. And letting go of those things that keep reoccurring, you have time and space to do that this year.
Yep.
As Pluto is moving and continuing to teach us all of these things.
Yeah, and retrogrades, I think retrograde has such a negative connotation because everyone just says, oh, Mercury is in retrograde. I feel like that's such a Mercury's in retrograde. Yep. I mean,
that person was a real bitch. Mercury's in retrograde.
I mean, you can say it to everything, but when retrogrades happen, there's always a positive to a negative, right? That yin and that yang. So, what you choose to see, how you choose to view that happening is retrograde gives us a time to be, what's the word I'm looking for when you look back on something in your retrospective and like honoring yourself too in where you've come from, right? Like when I look at life-changing decisions that I have made in the last 5 months comparatively to what I've done in the last 5 years, I'm like, oh, you go.
Mm-hmm.
You go on with your bad self.
Right.
Like, oh my God. Like, and sometimes I'm like, who are you? Like, who is this person of you that I'm looking at that I'm like, what?
You have cultivated incredible change in your own life.
Yeah, I have. Thank you for saying that. I feel really proud of myself too. And it's scary. It doesn't come without ego coming back into the picture a lot.
Right.
Fuck you, ego. But at the same time, I just think that when these retrogrades happen now with Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's a time to reflect. That was the word I was looking for. Retrospection, but reflection. And look at the growth and look at the changes that you've made and be hopeful, right? I feel that Pluto moving into Aquarius is such a hopeful, positive, expansive time for us personally, but us professionally. I feel that, we are doing this podcast for all the right reasons. We want to share our voices with the world and hope that we provide help to our listeners and that they grasp onto the topics we're talking about, and that we just love on them through our words and our messages, because this is so much bigger than us.
Right. The language is huge, right? The language seems very big around astrology and around expansion and connectivity and change, but it really has to just be as simple as a small step of growth.
Yes.
In the direction of your best self.
Yep.
And you don't even know who that is, because whoever you think it is, it's great. Do all the visualization exercises you hear about, all of it. But whoever you think that person is not actually who you're going to become. Yeah. Because it's going to be some other version of that that has learned lessons that you don't even know you need to learn yet.
Yeah. Like, don't get your hood pierced in an upstairs bedroom at a piercing party by someone who's never pierced a hood before.
Now you know.
Now you know. Learn from me. I learned from myself.
I mean, the things we do, you guys. Somewhere exists a video. I don't know if I ever told you this.
Is this another one that's never going to make it on the internet?
Oh, it is on the internet. You just don't know it's me. Somewhere exists a training video for Brazilian waxing featuring my vagina.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know that that's my big claim to fame, but it's out there.
Yeah, there's no pictures nor videos of the hood piercing, but Brazilian waxing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel the need to go there, but why, as you age, there's a few things. Like, if I could have a conversation with the divine source energy, I would ask a few questions. One, why do we have more eggs get launched, released? That's the word. We're just launching eggs into the universe. But, why do more eggs get released into our vaginas as we age? It's not like we want more kids when we're older. That should happen in our 20s, right?
I just I envision, the marshmallow guns.
We're having a nerd party. We're having an egg party. Everyone come on over. We're releasing eggs. So that confuses me, right?
Right.
And I also don't understand the expansion of pubic hair as we age. Why does it need to grow thicker, fuller, and down your legs or up your belly when we get old? Just stop. Why can't it just have boundaries? And it doesn't go outside of those boundaries.
We'll get it in the next podcast. Boundaries and pubic hair.
And pubic hair boundaries. It really pisses me off.
It's just what really grinds my gears.
This would be it. We didn't know we were going here either. But I know there are listeners out here who can relate that are like, yeah, she's onto something. Just stay in your fucking lane. Do not go down the leg. The leg is not the lane. Okay?
It goes where it wants to go.
It pisses me off so bad. So bad. And us moms who have had kids who have the mom pooch that, haven't had the mommy makeover yet, which I love my body so much. We've talked about this, but I love my body and I love looking at my body and rubbing my body. But you also can't see the hair down there because of the pooch. And so also, if it just stayed in its lane, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Right.
I know this is a vain thing to talk about, but I just feel
I don't think it's a vain. It's a real thing to talk about that actually happens.
But why does the hair have to change? Why? And then you have a 3-year-old that just constantly look at you and they're like, why is there hair on your butt? Okay, Isla. Well, you get hair.
That is a learning lesson to talk about the evolution from primates.
That's right.
That's where you go with that.
Oh, our hormones. I know, perimenopause.
Yeah.
We should talk about that in another episode.
We're also going to talk about puberty and tween girls. And
Oh yeah, we're moving into that. So listeners out there who are in it, or have done it, you got to give us the advice,
all the tips.
because children always teach you so much about who you are as a person and where growth needs to happen. I will say that.
Not in your pubic region.
But and I love all the psychologists and childhood psychologists on Instagram that are like, kindly talking to you. Okay, when your child does this, that this is what you should think about, and this is what there is truth there. How do you grow as an individual instead of just like being a raging bitch all the time? Speaking for myself, I think moving into puberty and hormones, and as I move into, well, I'm in perimenopause right now, and what that looks like. Oh my God. Like, and what do we do?
Nobody tells you
No. And how do we gift Charlie and Jeff? Because they are in for the ride of their fucking life. Like, let's go.
Well, as much as we don't know what's going to happen to us, they don't have a clue.
I know. That's why I feel like maybe there should be like a camp we send them to. Charles and Jeff need to go and be like, wow, it's a lot of estrogen and all the things happening. And I just need.
I'll have to go put this in the group chat and see how well received it is.
I think it's going to be very well received.
Well, friends.
Yes. Well, friends.
It's been a fun time.
It has.
We hope you have learned something from this and have found some joy and some humor in, being a lady.
Being a lady, being a human.
Yeah.
Being a human in 2024. And, just finding happiness in the smallest of things to platform yourself into being a better, newer, cooler, more educated version of yourself than you were yesterday, which is
such a great ending.
The goal for all of us, right? How do we be a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday?
Right. Kind of little changes.
Sending you lots of love, lots of positive energy, and until next time,
you got this.
Peace out, boys. Yes.